Okay, folks, I actually need about 2 minutes. Not 2 minutes. I just got an emergency call. It's not serious, but I have to take it, and then I will be right back. Don't go away. Let me go back to the loading screen for a second. All right, folks. I'm gonna try to come back now. Hey, there we go. False start. Um, yeah, my boss at my day job asked a question. I'm actually wearing an old Art Institute shirt. I actually graduated from the Art Institute 100 years ago. Art Institute of California, Sunnyvale. I hope everyone's having a wonderful evening. We have some goals for prep, and let's talk about it. So we're gonna primarily today is Ileana and Orlok issues. For those of you who have been watching the show, Ileana is a bride of Dracula. She is an assign. Orlok is a full vampire. He was a German D&D vampire experiment that has full vampiric powers. So I think what we would want to do today is break down vampire stat blocks. We will. It'll be alright. And we will define the terms of the stat blocks for each. Because this is going to be a problem. I have a feeling Orlok is going to try to abduct Ileana. We're going to end up with, like depending on what happens. To find the terms of the stat blocks. Review. Vampire Powers. And it's good to do this because if we're planning a big fight with Dracula, we don't want it to be anticlimactic. We want Dracula to be the Kingpin. We want Dracula to be more intimidating than these vampires. So... one second. This is very exciting news. Further information. If you're interested in playing Night's Black Agents, and you are interested in playing with me and learning the game, let me show you a way that you can do that. So, this is the game. It's the game. View my slotted games. So, there is a service called startplaying.games. And on startplaying.games, you can view all sorts of RPGs and book games with professional game masters. Like, this is Robert Aducci. He's a good friend of mine. And what you can do is you can find a game that you want to play. Looking for indie TTRPGs, you can find a copy of Nice Black Agents. You can see that Grant Ellis is running that, so we'll drop that link in chat if you're interested in playing some Night's Black Agents with me. I'm willing to teach the game. It's going to be a one-shot. And I'm excited to run it for folks. It's $20 a seat, up to 5 players. Yeah, and I'm excited to provide this as a service. Start Playing is a good, responsive app. It connects you with dungeon masters from all over and game masters from all over the Twitch community. And yeah, you can check me out on there as a game master running games and learn all about everything that's going on. So that's an upcoming game that you can play. Furthermore, you know, the game system is in Night's Black Agents. We are proud to be sponsored by Pelgrane Press. If you are watching this video on YouTube, you can click sponsored links below the video. If you're watching it on Twitch, we are circulating those through chat. And the campaign is the Dracula Dossier, a highly collaborative improvisational role-playing game. Let's get me out of here. You don't need to see me. And it's by Kenneth Haidt. The soundtrack is Dust and Mirrors. So let's get ready to rock and roll. It looks like for those interested in running games as well, if you are someone interested in running games, you can sign up and you can charge what you want as far as the game is concerned. So, let me make one update to that and save the details. And let's get into our prep. So, ready to rock and roll. So we're going to look at Ileana's stat block, which is in the book The Edom Files. We adapted an adventure from the Edom Files handbook. And we are going to look at Orlok's stat block, which is in the director's handbook. Again, if you're interested in playing Night's Black Agents with me, since I see we have some new viewers, dropping that link in chat. I'm running games through startplaying.game. And let's look at the Edom Files. So first and foremost, this is Ileana Dragoy, who's currently being escorted around by Jisoo, Jess's character. And we are going to use my snip tool to add this to our prep document. We will copy that, and we will add this to the file. So, Ileana. Boop. There she is. We'll insert a page break. Try to keep this somewhat. And make this a header too. And next, what we will do is possibly beside it, if possible. We will see if we can line up Orlok's stat block. I'm also going to change the music and put on something a little more exciting. Music during prep is important. Alright. Let's do this. This is our vampire music. Boop. He's on page 70. This beautiful, handsome boy. So Orlok's powers and abilities are in here. So let's snip this. This is actually worth photoshopping. Then it looks like he has other abilities. So Orlok was recruited. And in full transparency, neither of these vampires are going to be able to be contained very long. They're actually working the players. They are far more powerful than they are. They're much stronger, and they stand a very good chance to completely just annihilate the player characters. But the vampires did know that they were in a weaker position. But what I think we're going to do today is we're going to review their stat blocks, and we're going to sort of compare them as vampires. And then the way I see this playing out in the fiction is as soon as Orlok catches the scent of Ileana, he's going to attempt to claim her. And Orlok is much more powerful because he is a full vampire, and Ileana's in a sign, meaning she is one of Dracula's brides. And then let's grab this as well. So, whoops, we're not ready for it. We're not ready for it. Let me click out. Here we go. The reason I'm snipping this out of the book and keeping it in my Google Doc is just for quick reference while I play. All right. So first, let's do a breakdown. It looks like as far as the general abilities, and those are abilities that take place during confrontations. Confrontations are modes when the outcome is uncertain. Investigative is where the players mostly succeed because they have investigative abilities. This is our confrontation. You notice Orlok has 20 points in hand-to-hand compared to Ileana's 5. In his health is higher as well. It's almost double. It's 13 compared to 7. Aberrance is equivalent to the athletics ability that a player character might have, and Ileana is also about half the durability, endurance, and athleticism in power of Orlok. As far as damage, damage is determined by the roll of a 6-sided die, plus or minus a number. Orlok attacks typically add 2 to the result, and Ileana typically is a straight roll or a slight penalty to punches and kicks. Still better than a normal human's punch or kick. And you can see that Orlok typically takes half damage comparatively. Ileana has slight, tougher skin armor. And then we can talk about some of the other divine terms. They're both about as stealthy, except Orlok has other abilities that will come into play. So let's talk about in the game book a little more about vampires. So there is a chapter, and this is in the Knights Black Agents source book. And Knights Black Agents, again, I like to keep, even if I'm running online, just the book as a quick reference. In the section on building vampires and talking about vampires, they talk about the different parameters you can set for them. How do they achieve their blood? Are they supernatural beings? Are they mutants? Are they aliens? Are they literally the spawn of Satan? And you have to make a decision. in your campaign. In ours, they are a combination of what we would refer to as telluric vampires and alien vampires. There are meteorites that have corrupted the soil, which has created these supernatural creatures. And with all things, when we cannot explain things, we create heuristics to explain them. And specifically for the campaign, a lot of the explanations, the heuristics, are religious-based. Which is why the Vatican is very involved in the explanation of where the vampires come from, as well as hunting them. Likewise, they understand that the vampires are... there's not many of them, and those that are around have their own plans. Many of their plans are things such as Dracula. Dracula wants to take over England and rule England and declare war. In some of the capstones of the Dracula Dossier, Dracula is seeking to form an alliance and take over the Russian government so that he controls both England and Russia. Driven by madness and immortality. So we're going to go through here and we're going to talk about specifically some of the abilities. The basic abilities, and as well as the compulsions, banes, and blocks. Compulsions are things that a vampire needs. Banes could lead to the death and destruction of a vampire. And blocks will prevent the vampire from using their powers or passing through. A good example of this from folklore and history is the sign of a cross or a crucifix. Holy water. The requisite of having an invitation to be invited into a location. And so Orlok and Ileana are both going to have compulsions, banes, and blocks. And part of the reason for us to do this prep is now that our players are engaging intimately with vampires, they have to be prepared, or rather, I need to be prepared as a director of the campaign in how to handle it. So let's look forward. So, aberrance helps determine the base hit threshold, which is a separate part on the stat block. That is the number on the die that we need to roll in order to hit the vampire. Aberrance is also the pool by which we draw our vampiric powers. And as we saw in our comparison, Ileana is nowhere near as strong as Orlok is. Let's make sure that we label Orlok. All right. Hand to hand is still the as they fight with their talons, fangs, etc., that's going to be the standard ability, and the health is what you need to reduce them and defeat them. Armor will reduce the amount of damage that is dealt. And as will some of their other abilities, such as Orlok has the ability to reduce damage all weapons by half. They do have some imbued weapons that are designed for killing vampires. That comes from Van Helsing's Vampire Hunting Kit, which they have obtained. They have the authentic kit by Van Helsing. And so we need to remember that and keep note of that. Free powers don't cost any aberrance. And let's talk about hit threshold again. So I might have an example of this. Let me show you. We're going to do an example. All right, let me squeeze this a little bit. All right. Hope and pray that this works. So the players are attacking Ileana with a firearm. They are shooting at her. In order to hit her, they're going to need to get a 5 or higher on the dice. So you roll the d6. You can see it. It's a white die. It doesn't show up as well. Let's make it prettier. Need a 5 or higher. They could spend their points. So they got a 4. They still haven't hit straight on the die roll. And again, you know, not hitting anything. They can spend their points from their shooting pool to impact. So they might say, you know, we're spending 4 points. It's going to be hard to hit, you know. They got a 6. They hit her. In fact, it helps if you can see what I'm rolling. These are just dice. So when they have such a high hit threshold, most players are, or most characters, most NPCs are a 3. So they're relatively easy to hit. She's about twice as hard. And then when they do hit, it's going to be a d6 minus damage. So a d6 minus the amount of damage they do plus minus her armor. So it's kind of simple math in that way. There's not a whole lot of dice rolling that goes into it. Let's put that away. And next, let's talk about some of the other stats on the stat block. And to do that, we'll go back to the handbook. You can also see that the hit threshold of a vampire can change based on vampiric abilities that are going on. We're actually going to snip this stat block so that we can add it, just so that we know if Orlok is using his vampiric speed, they're going to need an 8 or higher to hit him. And Orlok has used his vampiric speed. The other ways we handle this is simply by writing down the page number and just doing some quick reference or making a cheat sheet. There is a dungeon master screen, or a director screen, excuse me, we're not dungeon delving. There's a director screen that has quick reference for most of these abilities. It was actually nominated for the INI for Best Gaming Supplement. Content warning as well. Assuming that works, let me double check. We're going to get into some things, too, where we might talk about scenes of violence, graphic descriptions, vampire situations, dealing with mesmerism, other mature themes. So discretion and caution is advised because Orlok has, as you can see here, now that we've given the warning, he pursues sexually attractive targets and things of that. Bane's, you know, if he's feeding on someone, you know, he might be more susceptible. We throw that out there as a nicety. Those are some issues that are important to talk about too. Do we consent to play this game? And if we do, how are we going to deal with it? So, let's look at some of the other explanations and discussions around vampires and vampires' abilities. Vampiric Armor. So we know what they have. There's different levels. Rhinoceros Armor. Brilliant. They have the vampire agents if you're going to let them do that. Vampiric Powers. So let's make a list of Ileana's powers, and then let's make a list of Orlok's powers. I know that they're written on the sheet, but sometimes writing it down helps us remember. So, Drain. Infravision. Gonna add a pipe. Addictive Bite, which she actually landed on Jisoo, I think. Cloak of Darkness. Mesmerism. Spider Climb. Strength. Vampiric Speed. Now for the purpose of prep, we will split screen so that we can sort of go through this more easily. There. You can see both side by side. So let's go through them. I think 75% might be the way we go. We'll zoom in and out as needed. All right. First things first, drain. By default, a vampire can drain health from a victim and add it to his own health pool, so they can use drain to heal. Very powerful vampires can increase their health by as much as they can drink. Others might have a cap on potential health. Free power for aliens. But there's also an addictive bite added on top of that. Vampire's bite is addictive. Perhaps it's slightly pleasurable, or simply creates a strong physiological attraction. Treat being bitten by a vampire as a dose of heroin. This may be free, or the vampire may have to choose to addict the victim. In this case, Ileana has to choose, so... Strategy. Bite to heal and control victims. It's important to note that Shang's character was under her control for a while. Heat drain. Suck out their body temperature. Goodness gracious. Alright. Let's look at Cloak of Darkness. Here it is. It's demonic vampires summon all concealing shadows and lurk within them. This increased the local darkness by 2 levels. Night becomes pitch black. Normally lit rooms become dark. By convention, flashlights and other artificial lights cannot pierce these shadows, although sunlight burns them away. So, darkness to conceal, location, clues, and we'll say traps. The next one we want to look for is Mesmerism. Go back up, and the main reason we do that is so there is a huge section on mental attacks, which I believe Mesmerism falls under. And that's one we want to be careful with. It's one that our players cautioned against. We don't want to play into the mesmerism aspect more often. Not to mention, this assign understands that the player characters are most likely willing to murder her. So in a game foregrounding psionic abilities such as necroscope, again, it may be worth defining these abilities more specifically. So these attack the stability pool given the player facing Ethos of Gumshoe and the wide variety of mental attacks the vampire might use. All vampiric mental attacks use the same general system. So what they're teaching us here is that rather than learn many different subsystems and many different abilities, it's just mental attacks follow a standard power pattern. And then they explain how they work. So send to sleep. It can cause individuals to fall asleep. We can also see that it looks like her abilities came right out of the book. She is a vampiric assign, and even though we pulled her stats and abilities from the Edom files, the same stats from Ice Black Agents, most likely. Yep, compulsions, obey sire, same dreads, etc. The next ability we want to look at is Spider Climb, so Mesmerism +1 difficulty dealing with Empire. Send to sleep. All right. Taking a look. All right. Spider Climb. Let's check it out. Can see it. So vampires and Orlok will have levitation. Vampires can climb sheer walls, walk on ceilings. This is all falls under movement, I'm sure. Yeah, so movement is a section, and so they have a lot of descriptions on how the different vampires will move, as well as their movement abilities. And Orlok has levitation, Ileana has spider climb. Those are some differences between them. So Orlok can float. Meanwhile, Ileana can climb sheer walls, walk on ceilings, and otherwise cling to any surface by one's hand or two claws. In thriller combat, a vampire with spider climb loves to cling to the ceiling like Leon in The Professional. Gene Kelly. That's a good movie. And drop on phones. Since treble difficulty 7 for the first time and difficulty 5 thereafter for a round of surprise, which is... And then she has Vampiric Speed, which is also here. Ever since FW Murnau's Nosferatu, some nomadic vampires have moved with uncanny celerity. Preternaturally quick reflexes, inhuman space-devouring movement, or enhanced time sense, or any or all may play a part. By default, Fast Vampire increases her hit threshold by +1 or +2, as we saw in our chart. So let's see. Other uses of Vampiric Speed require 2-point spend from Aberrance. So you have to spend your Aberrance pool to use the speed. And they give you a bunch of options. Flawlessly parrying hand-to-hand attacks. That's one's important to use against Sharang. And it's not like it's perfect. She has a limited pool. Likewise, next, let's sort of add this. Let's take a look at Orlok. So Orlok's powers are cannot drown, extra attacks, levitation, which we already looked at, mesmerism we already looked at. It also has spider climb, plague, and summoning, as well as telekinesis, turn invisible, and a turn to mist, which Sharang can do. And then let's look at the other ones. So Orlok is more powerful, harder to damage, more resistant. Orlok has regeneration. Even when you can do no damage to a vampire, its unnatural flesh heals and regenerates. A powerful vampire can even regenerate from its own ashes, if exposed to enough blood. Damage from some sources, usually Bane's, does not regenerate, or only regenerates at normal human beings. Regeneration is almost always a free power, although regrowing a severed hand or leg, or reassembling smashed fangs might cost 2 aberrants. That's what we realized with the other assigns. like Shang was torturing them, and we knew that their limbs would grow back and regenerate over time. So unless they're attacking Orlok with a Bane, they will not be able to hurt him. Cheaters! They're cheaters! Hey, Arberlin. These are cheating vampires. Another one that he has is... tracking by smell, dark vision. Oh, let's see where it says it. Let's see, tracking. It looks like it'll be an awareness ability. We'll see what it says. Animal senses, dark vision. There's dark vision. Vampires who can see perfectly in the dark night. Or by some alien spectrum. Clairvoyance. Yeah. So essentially it's a tracking ability is what it comes down to. Or rather, is an awareness ability, as is dark vision. Boom. We'll just up this text size a little bit so it pops. I think what's going to happen is the players are going to have a nasty, nasty fight. The other powers that he has. Unfeeling. Boom. Unfeeling. Whether due to a fully redundant nervous system, robust alien cell design, or an inability to truly feel human pains, vampires never become hurt by physical attacks, except possibly from Banes, and automatically make all consciousness rolls. She can still fight while seriously wounded. Orlok feels nothing. Will not be impacted by pain or hurt. So these are notes that we're making. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at his next ability. And you can see here that the Bane will hurt him. So those are his free powers: tracking, regeneration, and being unfeeling, as well as seeing in pitch black and draining people. Cannot drown. See that? It's probably like a movement thing. The vampiric weakness. So, drowning is an effect in the game, and Orlok is immune to it. Extra attacks. Page 74. Page 74. Alright. Let's look at some of these. So called shots, so he can do that with vampiric speed. Disarm, critical hits, extra attacks. By pushing yourself, you can attempt more than one attack, provided that your rating is high enough. Hand to hand. So yeah, they can burn to do extra attacks. Orlok is good to use extra attacks and regenerate. That's how we interpret it. Unless he's been hurt by a bane, he will regenerate freely, like every round, the damage. So he will attack, and he will use 3 points from his pool. He'll burn some health, and then yeah, heal up. And the thing is, he hits for a lot of damage, you know, as we look at this again. So, let's look at a sample. So, Orlok is going to hit... Add 2 to it. So, Orlok hits for 4. The players have, like, say, 10 hits. They are 40% dead. Orlok hits with a second attack, and Orlok hits for 6. They are now dead. Or rather, they're at 0 HP. So in a round, Orlok can drop a PC. That is important to know. Assuming he hits. And he can. You know, he has hand-to-hand 20, so he's going to spend 3 points on both attacks. Most of the players have hit threshold 3. Hits the first one. Hits the second, and he spends 3 more to do, you know, he used 3 points to attack them, and then he would hit for that much damage. He would drop them, for the most part. There's things they can do, and, you know, they can help each other, so they just have to understand, if they get into it with Orlok, just, then he drains their health and heals himself. And then regenerates at the start of the next round. And then if they do hit him, he takes half damage, and -2 to the damage. So when they hit Orlok, and we'll show you, we'll switch the die to a hero color, melon colored dice. They shoot him and they get to add 3. So they did 4 points of damage. He subtracts 2 and then reduces it by half. They did 1 point of damage. He's hard. He's a vampire. So they have to get Banes and then take him out with the Banes. And that's kind of the lesson we have here. They do have a vampire hunting kit. They have preparedness. They've been to the Vatican and they've been to the Michelin. And all that with a German accent. Yeah. Other powers that Orlok has. We went through levitation. You know, he can spend aberrants or hand-to-hand for those. Describes mind-controlling sigils onto documents, which he had done. Mesmerism. Plague. Let's see what plague is. Many vampires of Balkan folklore spread tuberculosis, plague, or other disease by their breath or touch. Infecting a target usually requires a successful hand-to-hand attack. And then you can see, you know, the effects of anthrax, which is inhaled, severe. Interesting. Interesting. So, as we look at this guy... We'll breathe the plague! So yeah, he's difficult to deal with. Let's look at his other powers. He can turn invisible. He has strength. See what we have. Not seeing it. Magnetic field strength. Vampiric strength is on page 137. Vampires are stronger than humans. This might be a necromantic achievement, demonic gift, alien musculature, or mutant hormones. On page 124, they have the base effect. And then they can add extra thing to damage as well as perform feats of strength. So let's see what this does. In a hand. The basic vampiric attack ability, even a kick. Choo-choo-choo. So it simply means that's the reason why they do more damage. They do more damage because of their vampiric strength. So perform. That's going to be the thing. If they can... If Orlok can overpower Ileana's mind somehow and take hold, and the two of them go and challenge Dracula, that will be a show. While the player characters just kind of fly in a helicopter full of holy water. All right. Likewise, throw it out there again. Let's take a look at some of the others. If you're interested in playing Night's Black Agents with me next week, I'm also running a game on startplaying.game. Check it out. We'll explore the system. No experience necessary. Alright, so let's talk about Banes. And then let's scroll to them in the book. Part of the reason we're doing this, and we're doing this a little laboriously, is to make sure we understand the stat block. So when we're in game, we have tools to make the fight challenging, cinematic, etc. Because the player characters have essentially had their ways with minions. In fact, they are one up on the vampires. The vampires should strike fear into them, though, and right now they don't. The player's competency has overpowered them. So, next session, we kind of need to put them in their place as far as these vampires go. Likewise, there's going to be a vampire on the HMS Proserpina, so we need to work that into it. Alright, so we have come through here. These are the weaknesses. So Banes. Banes are some things that can kill a vampire. For Orlok, it's direct sunlight. For Ileana, it's being beheaded, a crucifix, or a holy object, or staked to the heart, as well as sunlight. So she's in a sign. She can be in sunlight. Her blocks, things that will prevent her from moving forward, are as follows. They also have rules for beheading, etc. Blocks is something that blocks the passage, attack, or influence of vampire. I think it's important to maybe say, we'll take a look at Orlok. So, Ileana requires an invitation. Will be blocked by crucifixes, holy water, running water, holy objects, and wild roses. Wants to obey sire. She might be convinced that Orlok is. Meanwhile, the only thing that blocks Orlok is direct sunlight. What got him was their weapon. He was familiar with it. That's the fictional reason. So I think what Orlok is going to do next time he gets out, and he can get out. He's got ways and means. He's going to turn to mist and go through the hole that they drilled into it. Falls through a false door on the bottom. Orlok is afraid of the weapon they have, because the players do have a vampire UV sunlight, essentially a sun gun. That's what we will call it, the sun gun. So the sun gun is what's keeping Orlok under control. The compulsion's something the vampire feels a powerful, even supernatural urge to do, but it's not necessarily for their existence. Orlok wants to chase a beautiful woman, and Ileana wants to obey a master. Good stuff. Let us explore a little more. Then the requirements. Here are some dreads. Dreads are things vampire hates and fears instinctively. For Ileana, it is the crucifix's holy objects, garlic and mirrors. For Orlok, it's direct sunlight. Wants to be afraid of it. Then the requirement is an action necessary for the vampire's continued survival. Orlok must drink blood. And Ileana must sleep in her native soil each night. If she don't, she gets tired. So, that is our general comparison and exploration of the abilities between them. So let's see what some of our other goals were. So, define the terms of the stat blocks, which we did, and we broke down the stat blocks for both vampires. So, let's start looking at some game terms. So, questions for the players. We can go back to full screen with this. We can actually zoom in. About 150. Make it a little easier for you all to read. So, is Ileana being taken to HMS Proserpina? If so, oh, thank you, chat. So Arberlin and chat remind us, Orlok did confess, I am likely to kill you all in your sleep. I am not to be trusted. Yeah, if so, she will try to escape once she catches wind. Orlok will sense if she is near and try to claim her as his assign. Be sensitive to the drama this will cause. Essentially, Orlok's going to attempt to come off as an alpha vampire. And the true son of Dracula, or creation of Dracula. Bum, 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 bum. So I believe they were thinking about taking Ileana there. And they have an Orlok. They could drop Orlok off at the Proserpina as well. Their plans are to send him to Romania. So, as we look at our Session 9 prep, to give you some context, this is essentially where we're talking about where we're headed. So we're headed to the HMS Proserpina. And we need to double check our lawn to see how she compares to the other two vampires. Because having 3 vampires and a Duke of Edom, it's going to be terrifying. Three vampires and a baby. And at that point, it's almost like you don't need to have another one. But let's see. So, 62. There she be. Elrond. So she's I think she's the plant vampire. She would be considered Orlok's cousin. So she can plant a seed, turning them into a plant. Ooh. Wow. Wow, we get a view double tap as well. This is great. So essentially our lawn has the ability to essentially plant seeds and turn them into homunculi. So her aberrance is much lower than Orlok's. Her hand-to-hand's low. She's skilled, though. She's terrifying. So, something we need to be aware of, and this is where it can get very interesting. So let's read a little bit about her. With the bottom of a pit of atrocities exposed by the fall of Berlin, few paid mind to the half-century-old records confiscated by the headquarters of German military. The Abwehr documents. Project Mandragora was entirely destroyed. Elrond 5, the child born in 1899, had no recorded parents and is listed as a ward. She has a handler. Experiments. Androgynously attractive. An effortless talent for seduction. Yeah, so essentially, she's there captured. So she's currently being captured and is being experimented on by Dr. Draws. So I think it's going to be one of those things where she's another experiment. She's another German experiment. So that would be 2 German experiments, and which creates a kind of a nice connection. The difference is she can lead to a character's death. She's aged unnaturally and still holds a grudge against her creators. And so, yeah, she's going to be... she's a mutant, essentially. So, that's great. So, I think she would be what we'd refer to as, like, the third bride. That's the other thing, too. I like the idea of Lucy Westerna capturing all the brides and, like, eliminating them. Or using them to control Dracula. Lucy is sending other brides to be created. While she... Because Lucy Westerna is the head of Edom in our game. She is a vampire as well. And she's trying to control Dracula. So... yeah, some of her powers... which we've already looked at, is the addictive bite, drained, heightened senses, hive mind with her plants, and she's also unfeeling. She has a howl that can do +4 damage as she dies, lustful dreams, which damages stability. Magically, she has seduction as a type of mesmerism, terrified of fire and defoliant, compelled to reproduce, and must sleep in fertile soil. So she's going to be great, and you can see this helps us prepare for the adventure. And let's make note. Aron is Orlok's cousin. Another German experiment. She was taken as a bride, even as Ileana was. Lucy Westerna is collecting these brides. But is also somewhat responsible for their creation. All right, so I think that's good for prep tonight. Again, our other prep that we've already prepped 2 other times is figuring out how we're going to approach the HMS Proserpina. How are we going to get inside? We need to find Hopkins and rescue her. And we also might have an encounter with a vampire. If Orlok's with them, he's going right towards his cousin. If Ileana's with them, she's going to try to avoid the cousins and avoid being revealed. An interesting advent after this might be the revelation of Lucy being in charge. We can delete the American vampires in there. It was a cool idea for the 4th of July. It's not going to come in. Alright, friends. Again, we are playing Night's Black Agents, which is a game by Pelgrane Press, designed by Kenneth Hyde. It is a vampire spy thriller. Likewise, the campaign we are playing in is the Dracula Dossier, a highly collaborative improvisational role-playing games. We will be back on Saturday at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. 5 p.m. Eastern. 5 p.m. Eastern. 5 p.m. Eastern. Follow WebDM Show on Twitter to find out. The soundtrack is Dustin Mears. Hey, we double post. Our bot posted it as soon as we did. Likewise, there's a voucher you can use for 20% off all Pelgrane Press products related to Night's Black Agents. And if you are interested in playing the game with me, I am currently advertising a game on startplaying.games, where you can get a feel for the game and the system, see if it's something you like. The cost is $20 per ticket, and appreciate startplaying.games giving me an opportunity to play with them. So, thank you all for watching so much. As always, we exit. Our outro is the intro, so take it away, Grant.